Anyway, hope you guys are having a great Saturday. And I wanted to jump on you guys with you guys really quick because obviously there's a video of me sharing my opinion based on lab work, okay, based on lab work, and sharing an observation that I had made, okay. So I just saw an observation and actually made an observation, and a lot of people reached out saying, what is the name of the test? Well, guys, the testing that we use, obviously it's the CBC with the differential, but what you see in order to see an expanded panel of your lymphocytes are called CD4, CD8, CD19, and then natural killer cells. Okay. What you are looking at is you are looking at those cells as part of an adaptive immune system response, those specific T cells. But again, you also have natural killer cells, which are innate immune system response specifically to viral cells. Okay. If the innate response is not enough, if you are low in natural killer cells, then what has to happen is you have to rely on those CD8 cells, which are called killer T cells, in order to continue the fight. Guys, this is why it is so bad if you have low natural killer cells. Okay, so all I did was just make an observation. And boy, I tell you what, people just went nuts, right? It was so nuts that we were fact-checked by the Facebook fact checkers, and it was considered false. Now, we know it's not false. When you're looking at lab work and sharing an observation based on objective data. So we had a team of journalists fact check the fact checkers, and I posted that article in the description of this video. Make sure you go ahead and read it because we have in our organization 2 full-time journalists who write. I said, hey, go ahead and look into this. And she said, yep, take me a couple hours to write. And 18 hours later, she said, the rabbit hole is so deep with the fact checkers. Please make sure you click the link and read our response to the fact checkers. All right. Now, just remember, guys, is we should be able to make observations in the field. Remember, we have to be able to observe things in the field because that's where science starts, is by making an observation. And if you tell someone that you cannot make an observation, where on earth is the scientific process? It is not there. And sadly, I'm seeing so many times that there truly is not a scientific process with so many things. And I'll give you a perfect example, guys. I want you to think of the drug called Chantix. They pulled it off the market after 15 years because they realized that there were specific cancer-causing agents in it. 15 years after the fact. Now, what's amazing is the current, it has no research at 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. In fact, the phase 3 trials are happening right now because you are the phase 3 trials. And so the question is what happens to a person's immune system at 1 year, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years? There is no scientist that can tell you with definitive proof because it has not happened. So what is wrong with asking the tough questions in order to protect our patients, in order to protect our people, in order to protect our children? So again, guys, read that article, okay? Now, the reason why, and what I want to challenge the CDC, and I want to challenge the doctors and challenge Paul Offit, I want to challenge them is this. In your phase 1 and your phase 2 trials, did you use a CD4, CD8 natural killer cell, CD19 testing, or was it just known as a CBC, complete blood count? What testing did you use? See, because the fact checkers, they just ask an expert and the expert says false, therefore it's false, without providing any objective data, okay? So again, guys, read that article. Now, I want to show you something really interesting, okay? I have had probably, conservatively 1,000 messages or emails over the last couple of days. And one of the reaching questions are people very concerned with autoimmunity. So the number of people who've had autoimmune conditions reaching out, the number of people with concerns about future autoimmunity have been reaching out. And I would say a large percentage of people that we see, specifically with testing and consultations and things like that, a good percentages are people with autoimmunity. Okay. Now, when you look at autoimmunity, here's the amazing thing is that it takes on average 3 to 5 years for a person to get a diagnosis of autoimmunity. So literally tens of thousands of dollars in medical expenses. They will go to 3, 4, 5 different doctors. They will usually wait about 3 years before someone gives them some kind of definitive diagnosis of, yes, there's autoimmune, but just remember, really the only answer is to affect the immune system by trying to knock out the inflammatory process with an overwhelming majority of autoimmune conditions that are going on. Guys, there's over 100 autoimmune conditions that we know of, and we keep finding more and more and more. And what's interesting, though, guys, is I want you to look at when just go ahead and Google or DuckDuckGo autoimmunity since 1950. Okay. So go ahead and do that. Autoimmunity since 1950, and you will see the spike and the huge increase in autoimmunity since 1950. And no, it's not because we're diagnosing it better. Okay. Now, we actually do run a test in our office from Aurora Life Sciences, and it is actually an autoimmune screening. So it will test for the top most prevalent 38 to 40 different autoimmune tests. Because the thing that's really frustrating about patients is the doctor will check for just one. And if it's not that, you got to go ahead and wait, for 3 months and then go to the doctor again. Let's do a different one. But what if you could actually screen all of them at once? And I'll give you per examples where we screen people. And usually you don't just see one, you see multiple antibodies in different tissues, okay? In different types of tissues. And in fact, when we screen people, there are a lot of people who have autoimmune conditions that are going on, which means it's not an on or off switch, is that you can have subclinical autoantibodies that are taking place. So this is why it helps us to see what tissues are being affected. So there's a lot of people who have concerns about autoimmunity for different reasons, but I want to actually take you to something. And I'm going to share this page. See if I can bring this up. There we go, right here. Okay. Now, when you look at this comes from Johns Hopkins Medicine, okay? The pathology department. And they talk about autoimmunity, but this is coming from the quote unquote experts, okay? So here's what they say. How do autoimmune diseases unfold? They will say this, although we do not know what causes autoimmune diseases. We don't know what causes it. And they say it's genes, it's the immune system, and it's the environment. So obviously they're looking at genes, okay? But this is the argument that they make, is they say this: if it was 100% genetic, then you would not see such a change and an explosion of autoimmunity since 1950. So what they're actually saying is they're saying that there's something happening in a person's environment. And they say the role in the environment. So here's what they say. The incidence of autoimmune disease has increased remarkably since they first recognized it as distinct medical models or medical entities in the 1950s. Part of the increase in undoubtedly secondary to a greater awareness in the medical community and about these conditions, but the increase is too large to be explainable only by better diagnosis. Considering that the human genes do not change in 50 years, that the concordance rate of a given autoimmune disease among monozygotic twins is not 100%, and that there is a variation in prevalence of the same disease according to geographic locations, investigators have looked at the environment to identify causes for autoimmunity. Some environmental factors, looking down here, have been implicated with autoimmunity are infections, usually viral, dietary components, okay, food allergies, pollutants, specific drugs, and yes, even stress. So Johns Hopkins says that yes, it is environment. Yes, they're saying that it's genetic, but think of this, guys. Let me bring up my screen. Think of this. Think of this. It cannot be 100% genetic because your genetics have not changed in 50 years. Can you have a predisposition genetically? And here's what it comes down to. Can your genes change? Yes. What causes genes to change? The environment. It is the environment. Nothing, anything that is 100%, if it's not, it's anything genetic, okay, will express itself at birth if it is a true genetic disorder. So the thing is what changes your genes as you get older, as you age? It is oxidative damage that's changing the genes. The oxidative damage is really your environment. So what did they say? Infections, usually viral, dietary components, specific pollutants and toxicity that's affecting liver, that's affecting things like methylation, that's affecting the ability to produce bile acids, the ability to be able to process medications, the ability to be able to process and eliminate hormones, specific drugs, and even stress. Guys, this is why, this is how we handle things in our office. How do we handle stress? Physical stress on the spine and the nerve system. Mental stress, which is an absolute killer in so many people. What about dietary components? What about things like specific IgG, IgE food allergies? That can play a huge role. Guys, when we're looking at autoimmunity, we are seeing so many times, so many hyperpermeability gastrointestinal systems and having multiple food allergies, but even infections, which takes me down to one of the very reasons why I did the video in the first place, is can it actually be with autoimmunity a reactivation of a virus that was already within the body, like Epstein-Barr, like the herpes virus, the varicella virus? And can what we're doing actually cause a lowered adaptive immune system response that actually can then predispose a person from secondary infections? That's the question that I asked. And why can't we ask the question anymore? Why can't we ask the questions anymore? And I will keep asking the questions. I hope you keep asking the questions. And I hope medical doctors continue that are in the field, keep asking the questions. And medical doctors, please start testing your patients. It's called a complete blood count with differential, but also CD4, CD8, CD19 natural killers. So test those things afterwards, because that is a true representation of the immune system, not just a CBC that you are running every single year. So start running the right tests, start looking at them, and start being a research scientist so that you are on the field, and start providing people with data and start standing up as well. So guys, make sure that you share this. Make sure that you read the article. I hope you guys have an awesome Saturday. I'm going to go enjoy some sports with my kids and probably take a nap this afternoon. All right. So guys, be well. Please make sure that you share this video. And I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. All right. I'll be live tomorrow morning and talking a little bit about mental stress. All right. So be well.